Welcome to this episode of the Structural Engineering Channel, a podcast focused on helping structural engineering professionals stay up to date on technical trends in the field and to help them succeed in their careers and lives. I'm your co-host, Mathew Picardal, and in this episode, I'm going to introduce you to our new co-host for the show, and we'll discuss the kind of work she does and how she plans to serve you as the new co-host of the Structural Engineering Channel. Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to share some breaking news. EMI is excited to announce the launch of the two newest podcasts on the Civil Engineering Media and Entertainment Network. The AEC Engineering and Technology podcast that provides information about technology in the AEC industry, and the Engineering Project Management podcast that focuses on career advice and success stories for project managers in the engineering industry. You can check them out at the EMI website at engineeringmanagementinstitute.org/content. Now let's jump into our conversation of the week.
This episode of the Structural Engineering Channel is brought to you by PPI, a leader in engineering exam prep for the PE structural exam. PPI provides expert prep courses and study resources designed to help you pass the PE structural exam the first time. PPI's PE structural course is fully updated and taught with October 2021 code references and includes new editions of their PE structural books. PPI's live online courses include hours of lectures, problem-solving demonstrations, exam strategy sessions, office hours, and a passing guarantee. When you take a live online course, PPI guarantees you will pass, or you can take the on-demand course for free. PPI has helped engineers achieve their licensing goals since 1975. Check out PPI today at PPI2pass.com to see all of the resources available for PE structural exam prep. Again, that's PPI2pass.com.
Rachel, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today, and I'm looking forward to sharing the mic with you on the Structural Engineering Channel podcast. To start off here, can you tell our listeners more about yourself and what you do on a daily basis at Simpson Strong-Tie?
Yeah, I can totally tell you about that. And thank you for having me, Matt. I'm excited about this too. So what do I do at Simpson on a daily basis? I am an engineering supervisor down in our Riverside manufacturing facility. And I would say first and foremost, the biggest thing that we focus on is customer service. So we're always looking to help customers provide solutions. We have an 800 number we printed on all of our catalogs and everything like that. And I think people sometimes think that when they call, they're not going to, like, who are they going to talk to? And I always kind of like joke that there's a handful of us in the office that are answering those questions, and we all know each other. So it's like very much a team effort. Yeah, we provide technical support for engineers, anybody that calls in, engineers, builders, DIYers, contractors. It could be anybody. And then I focus on a couple of other things as well besides that. We obviously do like lunch and learns. We do educational workshops, presentations, things like that. And then I also focus quite a bit on deck education. So I'm considered we have a word at Simpson, we call them a deckspert. So I'm considered one of the company deckspurts, and I have the opportunity to basically teach people how to build code compliant decks. So there's I have a very wide array of things that I do. I also do a lot of outreach. I work with students and universities and things like that, which I really enjoy.
Oh, that's really cool. I know for most of us in the structural engineering industry, we're familiar with Simpson Strong-Tie. What attracted you to go work there, and how did you move from design to more of the, I guess, research and development manufacturing side?
Yeah, I was first introduced to Simpson when I was in college, right? So Simpson used to have like an engineer or a sales rep. They would come down and they represented the company to teach students about their products and, just what they can offer and how they're sort of like a partner in what we all do. And with that, like, they participated in Structural Forum, which is something big that Cal Poly does. And so on an annual sort of level, and they would do these workshops where we could install products, and they would teach us all these things, and I was always really interested in it. And I always am like telling people like network, and we were just talking about that before this started. It's really important, right? It's such a small industry, and really like a lot of people know each other. So as I worked my way through Cal Poly, I was networking with those Simpson reps, and I really enjoyed them. And then later on, moving into the design world, which is what I did straight out of college, I really enjoyed having the reps come in and do the lunch and learns. And I just sort of maintained those relationships. I remember attending a workshop out in our Stockton facility at one point, and being just sort of blown away by the machinery and the punches and like all this stuff. I was just very, very much so impressed. And I also, in my experience, like every time I interacted with somebody that was representing Simpson, I always just thought like, oh, that's like I like that person, And so it ended up like years later, it was one of the reps that used to call on Cal Poly was one of the people that called me up and said, hey, there's this opening. I think you should apply for it. And so I was like, okay, I'll give it a go, And that was almost 12 years ago now, and I've never looked back. So it's a cool company. I like the culture. I like the people. It's been a really fun career here.
That's so cool. I wanted to ask you about, I think it was some of the more unique things occurring today, with the Great Resignation and all that stuff. Because you've been with Simpson for a long time, what were some of the qualities of the company that allowed you to want to stay for that long?
This is actually something that attracted me to the company from the get-go. So it's not just an engineering firm, right? It's because it's a manufacturing company, it's got a sales team, a marketing team. It's a big company. We always kind of pretend we're still like this little mom pa company, but we're not. We're like a huge international company. And for me, I always thought like, that's so awesome to have all these opportunities, for me personally, design wasn't something that I saw myself in for 25 years for my whole career. And so with a manufacturing, I saw, Karen Colonius at the time when I started, she wasn't CEO at that time, but she had started as an R&D engineer. And I think when I started, she was, I want to say CFO. And so just seeing her career path and how she jumped from being like R&D engineer to like branch manager to all these different things where she got experience and like was able to really broaden her experience at the company, that was really appealing to me because I was like, well, maybe I'll go into marketing one day, or maybe I'll go into, I haven't done that, but like just knowing that it was sort of there, that was really appealing. And so being that I've been here now 12 years, I'm on my third role. So it has changed. And they haven't just been like growth roles. They've been a little bit like different. Like I was at a manufacturing facility in Stockton for nearly 5 years doing branch engineering things, which are more like customer facing. And then I went into R&D for about 5 years, and I got to really like switch gears and focus more on like the innovative, really use the creative side of my brain and develop parts and get really a lot more into like the code stuff and deeper technical. And then now I've transitioned to this new engineering supervisor role down at another manufacturing facility in Riverside. So I've really like gotten to see, different construction methodologies throughout the whole US. Like I'm not stuck in one little area, and, things are regional, and it's allowed me to sort of just stay motivated and inspired. Like it's not the same thing forever.
Yeah, it's interesting work, dynamic, and it seems that there's multiple growth paths. You're not stuck in one direction. Because of it's a bigger company, there's all these directions that you can go if you're interested, in the company supports that. I think that's awesome. Yeah. I did want to ask about research and development. I know I didn't go down that route, but definitely went to school with a lot of researchers, and I always found their research interesting, especially when they're testing stuff. Could you tell me a little more about the research and development side, and probably the testing that you do? I always found that really cool on how you guys break stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Usually catches people's interest. Well, I mean, we're really fortunate. We have just like the most amazing testing facilities, right? So, being on the R&D side of things, it's basically like, Simpson wants to provide solutions, right? So there's gaps out there where people don't have solutions, but there's certain things being built. And like, if there's a way that we could make it easier and safer, we want to provide that, right? So, fortunately for us, we have this amazing sales team that has all these really strong relationships with people out in the field, and we're able to gather that information, and we take that information, and then in the R&D department, we again, just like a bunch of just really great, smart people, and we can collaborate and brainstorm and come up with these new ideas. And I'm always like shocked at how, people in our tooling department can visualize things in a 3D sense and be like, well, our punches could do this, they couldn't do that, and so it's really like, there's a lot of people involved. And, as the engineer, you're looking at like, calculations, you're looking at test results, you have to follow certain acceptance criteria, you have to, do all these different things to make sure the final allowable loads are what they're supposed to be. But it was a really, I really liked that role that I played, getting to be at the front end of like these new products that were getting developed, or these new, features that we were able to put on some of our parts that would make installation easier or get higher loads, or different things like that, so it was really like, it definitely tested my creative, sort of innovative side of my brain, and it was very fun.
Yeah,
and lots of breaking things in the lab.
Yeah, because it's kind of just I imagine there'd be a group of engineers, and they would come up with that, basically asking those questions that you're asking. How can we make this more effective? And yeah, it's an open-ended, creative problem solving. And not only that, it's once you come up with something, okay, let's test it. Let's see if it really works. And I know there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, especially with all the codes. So I'm sure it takes a big team.
Yeah.
So that's something that always seemed pretty cool. That's, I think, underappreciated at times, because everything's in the catalog, but I think most engineers don't appreciate all the things that go into it just to get that single product out there to be able to use.
Yeah. And even, once it's already in the catalog and there, I mean, we always kind of like joke, we're always trying to make the next best mousetrap or whatever. It's like, even though it's already there, like we take feedback from the field. So like, if there's something that somebody feels like could be better, like we want to look at that. So we'll have like the next version, so it never really stops, you're constantly trying to develop the next best thing.
And you also mentioned that you were the Dexpert, the deck expert. Could you share with us how you even got into that role, and how you became the Dexpert, and some of the things that you deal with in order to build that expertise?
Yeah, so it kind of just fell into place when I had gone into the R&D department. A lot of the products that I was working on were sort of related to decks. So even before my involvement, Simpson has always been heavily involved in deck building, deck education, different things like that. And so when I got into that role in R&D, it just sort of made sense for me to follow along in that. And one of the products that I worked on when I was in R&D was the brick veneer ledger connector. So it's a way to attach a ledger for a deck to a home with a brick veneer that you can't put any load on. So you actually have to like bypass the brick. And so anyways, I was working on that part, and there's a lot of like different opportunities for when we can kind of help to safer decks, right? So there's trade shows. There's usually 2 or 3 of them every year that we always have a booth at, where we teach classes and people can come in and listen to us talk about, proper ledger attachments and, the different requirements for a railing and all of those kinds of things. So that's something I travel with a couple of other people at the company, and we travel around to those trade shows and teach those. We also do workshops for inspectors. We talk a lot about, because it wasn't really until 2009 that decks even got into the code. So prior to that, it was very very loose, right? So 2009, they finally got in the code. Yeah. And, it's so funny you say DIY, because decks are often overlooked as being a structural element of a home, right? It's kind of like, just slap that thing on the back of the house, which, I can understand how people have that kind of thought process behind it. But if you look at, failures and injuries due to building failures and stuff, decks tend to be one of those things that they can cause injury when they fail, because you're usually elevated. It usually occurs when there's like a party or something happening where there's a lot of people on the deck. And it's just one of those things that we take a lot of pride in trying to teach people how to build them properly. So we work with inspectors, builders, engineers, all the different parties that come into play with that. And the other thing that we've done to try to make it easier, it's in the IRC and the IBC, and there's the DCA 6, which is that design for code acceptance, that deals specifically with deck building. And one of the pieces of literature that we developed at Simpson is like a little companion piece that goes with that. And so it really makes it easy for somebody that's building a deck. Maybe they're not even like a professional builder, maybe it is more of a DIY, but they can look at each little piece and see like, how could I do this properly? And what could I buy off the shelf to achieve that connection, So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of stuff with inspectors to try to teach them what they're inspecting for. And that's become kind of more of a hot topic lately with the state bills that have gone into play. So I don't know, we touch on those to try to teach inspectors what they're looking for and how that's going to affect the engineering community and all of that.
Yeah, I did not know that much went into the decks, because it seems like it's not just you're designing the connections, but we're also teaching people how to properly design them for the layman that just wants to do their own deck. But here's how you do it. And not only that, you have to communicate it to a layman, which, with graphics and making it clear. But I didn't know about the inspection stuff too, and all the building code compliances. So I can definitely see why there's an expert that's required for that. That's really interesting. And yeah, that makes sense about the decks, because people can just have parties and they don't get the load pass. Typically, I know I've seen some anchors used on decks that you're supposed to use in the Simpson catalog for any out of plane forces. People won't know about that if they're just building it. So they need to be educated. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the opportunity or how you wanted to become a co-host. I'm really excited that you're going to be on here and we're going to be sharing the mic. I guess, what are your goals? How did you get to that opportunity? And what are your goals of, being the co-host on the podcast?
I'm excited. I mean, I think that for one, I'm just excited to talk to some different people, hear about their stories, what they're working on, new and upcoming sort of projects, methodologies, different things like that. So that's exciting to me. And then the other thing is I really am excited to help motivate sort of that next generation of engineers and bring to light some topics that can be really interesting so that people see why it's such a fun profession and want to stick with it and grow as a structural engineer.
Yeah, and I think that you'll find, and I know for me, for the episodes, I've been so surprised on the variety of structural engineering. I think most students, when they get into structural engineering, they think they're going to get into design work, which, yeah, that makes sense. But you see all of these different career paths talking to different structural engineering professionals. It's not just one path. There's dozens upon dozens of career paths in structural engineering. And, you're living proof of that too. You went to design, and I don't know how many roles you went into with different skills. And it's not all technical. It gives you an opportunity to use your technical skills, but also develop, more of the soft communication skills. I think that's needed for all of these different positions. And what I really appreciate for you coming on is, a different perspective in terms of on where you are professionally. I know for me, I'm a design engineer, project manager, and consulting side, and you from the research, basically from the other side and research and development, and you have so much more expertise on, I guess, more of the bigger picture items with the engineering leads and research and development. So I think that's really cool and exciting, because my perspective is something, but I know there's a lot of other perspectives out there, which I appreciate. So looking forward to that.
I feel like as I've gone in as I've moved forward in my career, it's really coming out of school, like you just said, it's you think you're just going to be a design engineer, and that's sort of the path, and I think that as I've worked and as I've networked and as you get involved in different SEOC and different professional associations and things, you meet more people, and you think oh, well, that person's working in forensics, I didn't even know that existed, and this person's working in software, oh, I didn't even know that I could take that and go that way, So I think as you gain experience, you start to really see there's so many opportunities in which you can take, your educational background in engineering and what work experience you do have. And it's really good. It's a good foundation for going in so many different directions.
Yeah. With the structural engineering, it's, if you want to do it, do it. If it doesn't work out for your career, then I think engineering in general, it just teaches you so many skills that, you're good. You can pivot whatever way you want, because the skills that you learn, you take with you.
Yeah.
Did you have any final career advice for structural engineers that are going through a similar journey such as yours?
Advice. I think I just would say just kind of there's lots of opportunities, and don't ever feel you're stuck doing something. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there, and everything that you're learning along the way can play an important part in determining where you go next, so just be open-minded, and I think make it what you want.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rachel, for introducing yourself, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on this one.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. I totally appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed the episode today. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and/or questions. To leave them, please visit structuralengineeringchannel.com. There, you'll find a summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, which is episode number 90, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Until next time, we wish you the best in all of your structural engineering endeavors.